This is Miss P, and this is a review on how to find the volume of a rectangular prism. Well, what is volume? What does it mean? What's the definition of volume? Volume is the amount of three-dimensional space that the object takes up. So in this case, with a rectangular prism like we have here, we want to know how much 3D or three-dimensional space is taken up by the object. How do I find the volume? Well, to find the volume, we can use a fairly simple formula. Volume equals length times width times height. Now, you may also see in some places the formula volume equals base times height. You might see this in addition to the first formula of volume equals length times width times height. Now, it's important to know that if you see this other formula, it's basically the exact same thing as the first formula, because you see B stands for base or area of the base. And if you remember, the area of a two-dimensional object is just the length times the width. So you see, length times width times height is the same thing as base times height, because length times width is the same thing as base. So in this problem, we're going to use the first formula of volume equals length times width times height, but you should know that it means the same thing and will get you the same answer as saying that volume equals base times height. So here we have a rectangular prism. We should think of this rectangular prism as many little cubic inches or many little cubes all bunched together into one three-dimensional larger object. So when we're multiplying, we should think about multiplying the length, and in this case, we'll use 10 inches as the length, times the width. In this case, we'll use 3 inches as the width, times height. And in this case, we'll use 4 inches as the height. So remember, if we were looking for the area or the surface area of just the bottom two-dimensional rectangle, we would just use the 10 inches and the 3 inches. But because we're looking for three-dimensional volume, we're actually going to use length of 10 inches times width of 3 inches times height of 4 inches. Now to find the volume, we simply go through the steps of the formula. We multiply 10 times 3 times 4. There are many different ways you can do this. You can use a calculator if you have access to one, but in this case, I'm just going to break it up. I'm going to first multiply 10 times 3, which gives me 30, and then I'm going to multiply 30 times 4. 30 times 4 equals 120. Now, labels are important when we're talking about geometry, especially area, volume, and similar measurements. In this case, we have the answer of 120, but it's 120 what? 120 cubic inches. That's important because we're measuring the amount of three-dimensional space the object has taken up. We are measuring the dimension of length times the dimension of width times the dimension of height. We are measuring 3 different dimensions in order to get an answer that tells us the amount of three-dimensional space that the object takes up, which is represented in cubic inches. It's very important to make sure our labels are correct, and every time we are measuring volume that we state our answer using the area of measurement cubed. In this case, the areas of measurement from the rectangle are inches, and so our answer will be in cubic inches. When we go through the process of finding the volume, multiplying the length times the width times the height, 10 inches times 3 inches times 4 inches, we get an answer of 120 cubic inches.